Africa remains under the influence of its former colonizers. The legacy of colonialism in modern Africa. Despite the formal end of colonialism in Africa during the mid-20th century, the continent remains entangled in the vestiges of its colonial past. Nations such as Morocco, Ivory Coast, Tunisia, Congo, Kenya, Gabon, and Cameroon continue to grapple with the lasting influence of their former colonizers, now joined by new global powers. This essay explores how the leaders of these nations, often seen as complicit in maintaining the status quo, contribute to ongoing issues of poverty and exploitation. Furthermore, it examines the role of international organizations, like the United Nations, in perpetuating these dynamics. The persistent grip of colonial powers. Colonialism officially ended with the wave of independence movements that swept across Africa in the mid-20th century. However, the reality is that former colonial powers have retained significant influence over their ex-colonies. This influence is often economic, manifesting through trade agreements, control over natural resources, and financial dependencies. Countries such as France, the United Kingdom, and Belgium have maintained a strong presence in their former territories, leveraging economic and political power to shape these nations' trajectories. In addition to the old colonial powers, new global players like China and the United States have entered the scene, engaging in what many describe as neo-colonial practices. These countries invest heavily in African infrastructure and resources, often in ways that primarily benefit their own economies. The result is a modern form of economic colonization, where African countries remain dependent on foreign aid and investment, with limited autonomy over their economic policies. Complicity of African leaders. The role of African leaders in perpetuating these dynamics cannot be ignored. Many leaders in these countries are perceived as being more interested in maintaining their own power and wealth than in the welfare of their citizens. Corruption is rampant, with leaders often accused of accepting bribes and engaging in shady deals with foreign powers. This complicity results in the continued exploitation of Africa's vast resources, leaving the majority of the population in poverty. These leaders often live in luxury, with their wealth stored in foreign banks and their families residing in the West. This disconnect between the leaders and the people they govern exacerbates social and economic inequalities. The focus on personal gain over national development stymies efforts to break free from the cycle of dependency and underdevelopment. The role of international organizations. International organizations, including the United Nations, World Bank, and International Monetary Fund, are ostensibly committed to aiding development and promoting stability in Africa. However, their actions often tell a different story. These organizations have been criticized for implementing policies that favor the interests of powerful nations rather than the needs of African countries. Structural adjustment programs, imposed by the IMF and World Bank, have frequently led to austerity measures that exacerbate poverty and limit access to essential services. Furthermore, the UN's peacekeeping missions and humanitarian efforts, while crucial in many respects, sometimes appear to be more about maintaining a veneer of stability rather than addressing the root causes of conflict and underdevelopment. The lack of genuine, transformative support from international organizations contributes to the persistence of Africa's struggles. Conclusion. The shadow of colonialism still looms large over Africa. The continent's enduring struggles with poverty, corruption, and external influence are a testament to the complex and intertwined legacies of past and present colonizers. African leaders' complicity in maintaining these dynamics, coupled with the often self-serving policies of international organizations, has left the continent in a state of modern-day neo-colonialism. Breaking free from this cycle requires a concerted effort to prioritize genuine development, transparency, and self-determination for the African nations and their people. Only then can Africa truly emerge from the long shadow of its colonial past.